Hey cats, it's EDDBUD here. Today I've got for you a race recap from the Brighton Marathon 2023. Thanks for joining me here on the channel, it's always appreciated. Help the channel to continue to grow by hitting that subscribe button, but also clicking the bell of notifications. Give this video a thumbs up like too, that really helps, and share it with your running buddies. You know it makes sense. Okay, so back from the Brighton Marathon 2023, I had a fantastic time in Brighton. Aside from the race, it didn't go quite so well, but I'll tell you about that in a second. I just wanted to say a big thanks to all the viewers I met while I was in Brighton at the race, sort of before and after. Some fantastic people as well, lots of new people I met as well that are going to be checking the channel out in the future. It's almost too many to mention really. There were some fantastic people there before the race, really kept me kind of grounded I suppose, and filled me with a little bit more confidence when I was in dire need of it actually. So this race almost didn't happen with the previous organisers of the marathon. I think they went bankrupt or they went under or something. London stepped in and brought their expertise to the table and got the race happening, which is fantastic really, especially considering that a lot of people would have paid to do the race before this and perhaps thought they may never get to do it due to the fact that the other organisation had gone bust. I got over to Brighton on the Saturday morning, staying at a guest house about 25 minutes walk from Preston Park, which is where the marathon was set to kick off. I got some reasonable sleep the night before, some nerves there, bit of indecision I suppose about my race kit, you know, what was going to be right for the race. On one hand I was worried about being too cold before the race, but then also making sure I had the right gear on during the race when the sun came out and it started to get warmer. I gotta say it was rather cold and bleak before the race started. Preston Park was really chilly, there was some cold winds kind of flying through, nowhere really to shelter or get away from them. Strava reckoned it was about 7 degrees C during the race, but with wind it actually lowered that to about 4 degrees. So a little bit colder than everybody anticipated before the race. The pre-race bag drop-off was not the best, I've got to be honest. Myself and a few of the other viewers were just waiting in a queue to try and drop our bags off that we could pick up after the race had finished. I think we went to about 4 of the trucks in the end to try and drop the bags off, and each time we were just told that they were full and we had to go back to one that we'd already been to. So I think I wasted about 35 minutes just messing about doing that. Perhaps need a bit more communication between the different trucks. I understand a lot of these people are just volunteers and they're helping out and stuff, but it kind of would be helpful for them if there was a bit more communication there. So some of that time that I wanted to warm up and kind of get myself ready and limber was used up really, and I didn't really have an awful long time to actually get ready before the race began. Used up loads of energy just shaking and shivering. One of the things that I'm going to take away from this first marathon attempt is to go and raid the charity shops for like a fleece jacket, something I can stick on before the race and then discard just before the start. So absolute schoolboy mistake, and I hold my hands up on that one. Into the top field after I dropped the bag off and over to the start line, and that went by fortunately quite quickly. Managed to warm up a little bit. Again, this was another race without a big countdown. There was kind of like a vague, okay, it's a minute to go, and then suddenly it was 10 seconds, and that was that. I was expecting like a big klaxon or something, but it didn't really seem to happen, and we just kind of started. It was all a bit odd. Once underway, I kept an eye on the 3:15 pacers. They seemed to go out actually really quick. Straight out of the blocks, about 100 meters ahead of me for the first kilometer. I was looking at the paces actually on my watch, trying to run my own race really, and I could see they were going out a bit hot. Even with me hanging back at around 7 minutes 30 per mile pace, they were still way out ahead and then gone. Maybe a tactical move for them towards the end of the race, perhaps to have a little bit in reserve, I don't know, but still that's how it was. Just looking through the kilometre splits there, I had 4:50, then 4:25, 4:36, 4:28 and then 4:31, so it was about 22 minutes 50 for the first 5k. So even I was a little hot there. That would have been about 7 minutes 21 seconds per mile, 4 minutes 34. So yeah, a little bit fast, but like I said, I was keeping them maybe a couple of 100 meters ahead, but they were gone after that. Second 5k was 4:32, 4:37, 4:31, 4:41 and 4:47. So that's about 23:08 with an average of about 4 minutes 38 for the second 5k split. So there again, I'm still a little bit hot really, 7 minutes 24 seconds per mile average across the first 10k. Course is an interesting one here at Brighton. You've got quite a bit of the initial section with lots of support, lots of people around. I was really happy with my pace and my effort up to that point. I was feeling really good. Lovely to see so many people out supporting all of the runners as well. I'm not sure of the numbers on the day. I think it must have been up into sort of 16,000-ish, something like that. I think the most difficult section here, which I was kind of looking forward to really at the start of the race, was where we got out towards the beachfront and you've got these long straight sections there which aren't the most flat, I've got to be honest. The camber was really weird actually on some of those road sections, almost like on a diagonal at some points. You wanted to gravitate towards the sort of centre of the road, but even that wasn't that sort of flat. Those sections along the coastline were actually the most difficult really. You didn't have much support there, just the St John's ambulance people who are absolutely fantastic, and it left you praying, you know, to get back towards the town again where you had some people and some life. It was pretty windy up there as well, just a seagull or two to sort of take your mind away from things. Certainly the gusts started to take a toll on my pace there a little bit. Managed to keep it reasonably consistent on the next 5k, so that was 4:31, 4:40, 4:35, 4:45 and 4:40. So absolutely bang on there. Really happy with the pace up to that stage. I was spot on for my goal. I wouldn't suggest it was easy at that point, but you know, I was keeping going. I was feeling good about what was happening. The legs felt good, certainly. I'd suggest the next 5k though was the sort of toughest part mentally, I suppose, as you're coming up to that sort of half marathon distance, knowing that you've got another one of those to go. So 4:51, 4:40 and 4:41, 4:48 and 4:48 again. So slowed a little bit on that fourth 5k. So that was 23:48. The 5k split would have been 4:46. And I was still about on schedule there with about 7 minutes 29 seconds per mile to that point. As you came back towards the town then, the wind direction sort of was against you a little bit. It really did feel tough along there. I can remember a lot of people kind of dropping back and the field started to really kind of thin out and stretch at that stage. I think mentally that was the toughest part for me of the whole thing really up to that stage. The next 5k split was down to about 24:47 there, and up to that 25k point I think I dropped back in terms of average pace to about 7 minutes 35 seconds per mile. Now it was round about here where disaster struck. I was coming along one of the sections as we'd entered back into the town, along past some of the very large hotels. Gaze just ahead of me looking for the next kind of object that I wanted to get to, and I put my right foot down and I think I basically put my foot into a pothole. I felt my leg overextend slightly and then I basically hopped the next sort of 10 meters and yeah, my hip was really barking at me. There was a couple of runners stopped to check if I was okay, and then of course you've got people on the sides of the course that are telling you, oh, just carry on, you know, walk, keep going. And you're thinking, can I keep going? So I tried running on it. I did for another couple of kilometers. When I got to about the 28th kilometer there, 5 minutes 42, I realized I was probably doing more damage to my leg trying to carry on there. So I thought, shall I walk? What shall I do? I was kind of going away at that point from where I needed to get back to my guest house if I needed to retire from the race. I managed to carry on up to about 30 kilometers. At that point, I knew I just had to stop. You know, it was really starting to seize up. Running on it wasn't making it any better, and I had to make a call, and I made the sensible call. I think that was the right thing to do. I had another 11 kilometers to go. Rather than try to struggle through that, you know, another like 7 miles or something, that's just crazy talk. That's not something that I think is a sensible thing to do, to struggle through and then possibly injure myself for weeks, months maybe. That's not something I'm going to do. So I checked in there with the St John's ambulance people. They were fantastic. There was even a cat there that I could hang out with. I could walk on the leg, but I wasn't there to walk that race. I was there to run it. If I'm going to run a marathon, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to walk it in. It's not happening. There's a beautiful cat there that had just come and hung out with the St. John's ambulance people. I think one of the ladies had perhaps given it like a tuna sandwich earlier or something, and it decided that it might get lucky once again. So very long, slow and lonely walk back to the finish there to collect my stuff. I noted as I was going along, and I could see the course, that there were loads of potholes that had been sort of marked with like paint. I didn't see this one. I just literally wasn't looking where I was going. I was trying to look ahead of me. It happened. What can you do about it? Not a lot, really. I had all these things going through my mind. You know, I was really sad and disappointed, kind of a little bit angry. I still had that in my mind. Oh, should I have just, you know, carried on? I sat on a bench actually for a moment or two and just kind of considered whether I'd made the right decision, trying to diffuse the blue touch paper that I'd sort of set off in my mind. After I did collect my stuff, I wandered through that sort of exit area, bumped into loads of really nice people, viewers of the channel who had some fantastic times, and it was superb to meet you. As I started the long and slow hobble to my room, I met a fellow runner who'd set out that morning to do another run nearby, but sadly, due to traffic and stuff, had got there too late, and so they couldn't do it, so they came down to watch the marathon instead. Great to meet you, sir. I had a bit of a chat with my dad on the phone. It got me thinking about things in perhaps a more reasonable manner, and just like take it as a training run. You know, tested the fitness and of the endurance, and to try and draw some strength from the situation rather than be sort of set back by it. Performance wise, really happy with what I did. Coming up for 18.5 miles, 2 hours 21. Gotta be happy with that, really. It's almost there, you know, performance wise. I've certainly got the endurance there. Just can build on that really for my next attempt. So got to draw the positives from all of these things always. You know, I could be really down about it, but where's that going to get me? Looking at the temperatures across the run there, certainly that I got from my watch, does suggest I was actually getting too warm at one point. And it seems mad to suggest that, but here's why I mention it. I did run in some arm sleeves, and I was really happy to have those on at the start of the race. As I got to about the half marathon point, I could easily have discarded those. It was quite sunny then, and temperatures had risen up quite a bit. You know, I know my body, and I know running at that pace, I can normally do that with ease, but today it felt that bit more difficult, I suppose. My hands were frozen for the first 10k of that race as well, despite the fact I had gloves on, and they were kind of detracting from my attention a little bit of just running. I was worried about those. So yeah, still on the lookout for the perfect gloves. It will never end, that quest. So Adios Pro 2 was the shoe of choice. They felt absolutely fantastic up until the point where I fell into the pothole. Not ideal for the pre-race wandering about on a very muddy field. Grip was good. Did I miss the insane bounce of the Primex? Yes, I did. I did leave those at home unintentionally. There was just the one bag that I didn't pick up. Never mind. I did take with me the Vaporfly Next% 3 as well. Could I have used these? On the day, the Adios Pro 2 felt a little bit better in the morning when I put them both on just to sort of feel how they were on foot, and that's what I went with. We'll never know, perhaps they would have done that bit better. Who knows? Maybe around mile 16 I did miss that insane squash of the Zoom X. Perhaps a softer foam could have guided me through the final parts. I doubt it would have been enough though to help me through those last 7 miles or whatever it was that I had to do. Now I will of course now mothball this shoe. I think it's cursed or something. This was the one that I wore when I fractured my shoulder, and it's now got a DNF to its name as well, so sadly it's going to have to go. Comfort wise, I was left with an insanely large blister on my right big toe on the outside. The rest of my feet were completely untouched. It's very weird. So some stretching on the afternoon of the race, and then the day after with quite a bit of walking really. I'm left scratching my head a little bit there, whether I just overextended it slightly. Doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as when I first actually did it. So a true test really will be some running, but that's not going to happen for a couple of days. Maybe Wednesday, very light effort just to see how it feels. Need some time to rest and recuperate now. Here are my thoughts, some things I need to tweak and change for my next attempt. So going out bang on pace is absolutely vital here. As a newbie to this, I need to make sure that I'm running my race. Regardless of what the pacers are doing, I need to go at the pace I know I can run at. That was a little bit fast at the start. Not majorly, I didn't go crazy, but it was a little bit quick. For my next attempt, I'm going to need something a little bit more cushioned. I like the response of that Adios Pro 2, but I think over a whole marathon, I'm going to need something slightly different. Maybe the 3 would have been the better choice, slightly wider sort of forefoot there. I'd definitely consider the Vaporfly or the Alphafly next time. Perhaps what worked for me over the half marathon distance is just not really all that appropriate for the full marathon. Staying closer to where the marathon start is going to be an absolute must. Hanging around in that cold field, wasting energy before the start of the race was not ideal at all in terms of sort of mental and physical effects. That really didn't help me come sort of 14, 15 miles. So staying nearer to the start of the race, absolutely imperative. In terms of like staying hydrated and kind of nutrition, gels and all that type of stuff, I think that was fine. This was just something that occurred and there's not a lot I could have done about it really. It's just unlucky. I will go at it again though. I'm going to select another event in the coming months. Not going to put all this sort of training to waste. Maybe in that time I can just improve my consistency a little bit more at that marathon goal pace. Hopefully without the illness this time as well that haunted me over the last few months. Reduced mileage a little bit there, so maybe I can improve and come back even stronger once again. It was absolutely fantastic to meet loads of you in Brighton. I hope you all had a fantastic race and I will be back soon. Big shout out to these two absolute legends at the Black Dove, Jamie and Charlie. A fantastic place. Do go and check it out. They even serve bass. Really nice atmosphere in there, and I popped in on the afternoon after the end of the marathon just to unwind a little bit, I suppose, and it was a fantastic place. Highly recommended. Were you running the Brighton Marathon or were you running over the weekend? Let me know how you got on down in the comments. After all this sort of overexertion, I had to listen to some nice calming tunes from Khruangbin. Con Todo El Mundo is the title of the album. I've probably pronounced that incorrectly, but I'm sure you can find it. Now, the sounds on this album are what it's all about. There's beautiful space in between the instruments, very sort of staccato drums that are very dry, beautiful rounded bass sounds, and this fantastic sort of Superverse Stratocaster. Lovely reverb and delay there. You can just swim around in the sounds and they're just so calming. You can feel your brain just dropping down into gear 1. Which is exactly what you need really when you're doing those longer runs. Tracks worth checking out are Lady and Man. There's a track on here called A Hymn, which is almost kind of slow motion music. It's beautiful. You can imagine like a cornfield with the plants just moving from side to side and the sun and the haze. Believe me, you can. The phaser on Friday morning as well is just absolutely amazing. These people must be seriously chilled out and I need to be more like them. Con Todo El Mundo by Khruangbin. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button, click the bell below for notifications. Also give this video a thumbs up, like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you